Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to have a look at some official reveals from Shrouded Fable. The reveal cycle seems to have started in earnest, and they've gone and shown us a bunch of cards, including, and we might as well start here, Cassiopeia. This is likely, not guaranteed, but likely to be, well, if not the chase card of the set, certainly one of the chase cards of the set. We do need to remember that Fezandipti is coming in this set, and there is a special illustration rare of Fezandipti, and Fezandipti is legit. It's got the same ability as the old Oricorio GX, and if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn, lets you draw 3 cards. It is seeing a redonkulous amount of play over in Japan. It is absolutely brilliant. So, yeah. The special illustration rare of Fezandipti, it's going to be a big deal because Fezandipti is redonk, alright? But outside of that, this Cassiopeia figures to be one of, if not the chase card of the set. And part of it is because, I don't know, spoiler alert maybe, it's Penny. And Penny is a very popular character. People like Penny. And Cassiopeia is kind of Penny's alter ego from early on in the Scarlet and Violet video games, before there's the big reveal and it's like, whoa, it was Penny the whole time, which we'd all kind of figured out long before, but, you know, it's not quite as bad as Clive and Cavell now, is it? So, what we've got here is just a stunning alternate art, and there's several things about this. Firstly, it looks amazing. That's a good start. Secondly, it's got Penny on. People love Penny. That's a good continuation. And thirdly, there's an Eevee aspect here. There's the Eevee case on the Rotom phone. There's a Sylveon chilling in the back. And people like Eevees. So the whole Eevee thing here is going to help massively. And it is actually a pretty gosh darned awesome card. Now, you can only use it if it is the last card in your hand, the only card remaining in your hand. But if you do, you get to search your deck for any 2 cards. So the deal is really simple. You need to try and make sure you're playing this in a deck where you can empty out your hand. And you play this and it's the only card in your hand. And then when you do, any 2 cards. It's genuinely brilliant. And I genuinely love it. And yeah, this is just awesome, honestly. It's really, really good. Good card, good character. You got the Eevee thing going on. And we don't generally tend to get, you know, full art supporters, special illustration rare supporters in the West doing crazy numbers. But remember, one of the biggest cards in the game right now, in terms of value from the Scarlet and Violet block, is the Ino from Paldea Evolved. So you never know. Maybe. Although, to be clear, there are some differences here, like the fact that Ino is basically a staple in every deck, and Cassiopeia, it's seeing play in Japan. We expect it to continue to see play, but it is far from a staple in every deck. So that might end up having a little bit of an effect, although, I don't know. This is maybe cooler artwork. The thing is, I don't know how many of you have been lucky enough to get to Japan anytime in the past few years, but if you go to Ikebukuro, to the Pokemon Center, and you go to Pokemon Suites, this will remind you very much of that. Every time I see this, I get reminded about it. Although I am going back to Japan in August, only for 3 days, but I think I'm going to have to go to Ikebukuro while I'm there, and that means I get to go to Pokemon Suites again, and that's rather lovely. But I got to tell you, the Pokemon team over there, the social media team, are absolutely crushing it in terms of reveals. Because look at this little exchange, right? They sent out a tweet saying, what's your favourite ace spec? Waited for people to comment their favourite ace spec, and then quote tweeted it with the new Genesect. Which is absurd. The new Genesect, the reason this is funny, the new Genesect has the ability Ace Nullifier. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached, your opponent cannot play Ace spec cards from their hand. You know they were baiting people with this. Oh, let's just send out an innocent little tweet asking people what their favourite Ace specs are. People will reply with their favourite Ace specs, why would you not? And then when they do, we control them with Genesect. This is one of my... And Pokemon have been doing some good reveals lately, but this is one of my absolute favourite reveals that they've done. It's just funny, and I'm pretty sure everyone just took it in the good humour in which it was intended, and I just think this is lovely. And make no mistake about it, Genesect is a legit card. Genesect is a card that, right now in Japan, it's not making huge waves, but I assure you there is so much potential in this card. Because one of the things about Genesect is, it is one-sided. When you whack a tool on Genesect, your opponent cannot play Ace-Specs from their hand, but you can. Your Ace-Spec is still absolutely live. We saw this similar kind of thing on a Spiritomb back in the day when we had the old Ace-Specs. But the difference is the old Spiritomb said that neither player could play Ace-Spec cards from their hand. Whereas Genesect is just like, no mate, your opponent can't play Ace-Specs. You go right ahead, you're fine, you play all the Ace-Specs you like, boy. And that makes a gigantic difference. Because, and look, there are certain ones here that it's not really going to matter. So take something like Giant Cape. Your opponent can't play it from their hands. If you get this down early enough, you can stop them playing it. But once it's on the board, Giant Cape is still given the extra 100 HP. It doesn't make a difference in that regard. And you have things like Legacy Energy, which is pretty much only played in Lugia decks. And in Lugia decks, it's going to be accelerated from your deck by Archeops, and it's not going to matter. But then there are so many others. I mean, Prime Catcher is always a big one. Prime Catcher just sits there being your best option for gusting a lot of the time. And if you're terrified of any gusting coming out to thwart your plans, well, get Genesect, attach a tool to it, and then all of a sudden your opponent can't play Prime Catcher, and then you've got that protection. But you still can play Prime Catcher if you so wish. Guarantee that you can take an early KO without your opponent playing an unfair stamp to put you down to a 2-card hand, for instance. There are some good uses for this. And yes, obviously, your opponent can just remove the tool. If your opponent plays something like a Lost Vacuum, they remove the tool. Genesect no longer has a tool attached to it, so they turn off Genesect's ability and they get access to their Ace-Specs again. Sure, fine. But in this scenario, they've got to have the Lost Vacuum to remove the tool. Then they've got to have the Ace-Spec that they want all in the same turn. It's asking a lot. As a side note, in terms of a tool, Rescue Board is a presumptive best tool. The tweet suggested it, and I think the tweet is right, because Rescue Board reduces your retreat cost by 1. Genesect has a retreat cost of 1, but is exactly the kind of Pokemon you want sitting on your bench, not coming into the active. The attack Magnetic Blast is kind of garbage. So, yeah, here you really want it sitting on the bench, and this means if it gets dragged into the active but not KO'd, your opponent isn't trapping something in the active. It can retreat again quite nicely. Unless there's something stopping you retreating, but what's the chances of that being played anytime soon? And the last reveal they've done is another, the reveal alone was pretty cool. They tweeted out a picture of Inkay with turn screen upside down to see another Shrouded Fable card, and then they retweeted it with an upside down Malamar, and of course you turn it upside down, and assuming your screen doesn't autocorrect, you get yourself a Malamar. Remember the whole upside down DS thing to evolve Malamar back in the day? That was cool. That was a fun little thing. That's what they're giving a nod to. Obviously, the Inkay here is, I mean, look, single colorless energy. Look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You can have them shuffle it. You can try and make sure your opponent draws into something bad. It's a tiny, tiny advantage if you're playing Malamar anyway. But Malamar's got the lovely colluding tentacles. Why did I save a picture of this card upside down so I've got to read it upside down? Don't know. But you switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot, and if you do, the attack does 120 to the new active Pokemon. But if you didn't play Zerotix Machinations from your hand during this turn, the attack does nothing. And if you're thinking, hang on a second, Wassy, did they really reveal a card which only makes sense with Zerotix Machinations without revealing Zerotix Machinations? Yeah, they actually did. Which is frankly a little bit weird. At least I've not seen the reveal of it, so Maybe I've missed something somewhere. I can't see Xerosix Machinations being officially revealed. And it's only been a couple of days, so I'm just saying it hasn't been. But that is the card, which when it is revealed, and we actually do know that it's now called Xerosix Machinations, which is pretty cool. But that's a supporter card that makes your opponent choose cards from their hand, discard until they've only got 3 cards left in hand, which is clearly hilarious. So, yeah. Good call, ladies and gentlemen. This is a good card. As for the Malamar 120, I mean, look, you can do decent damage for low energy. You can KO something like a B-Barrel on the bench, for instance. There are certainly reasons to get a little bit excited about this. This is a decent card. Xerosix Machinations is clearly the one where you're like, oh, okay, cool. This, it's not as good, but I think there could be something in a control deck where we go and use this. Also, just for my own nerdery here, I really liked that we got confirmation of the English name being Xerosix Machinations, even if we've yet to see an English scan. Right, there we go. That's what you need to know. And now it's over to you guys. Those are the reveals from Shrouded Fable. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these cards. Tell me what you're looking forward to from this set. Remember, it's going to be legal for the World Championships. This is a very big deal. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Kiridan, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.